Ever feel like your brain's kind of got its own rhythm, different drummer and all that? Well, get ready because today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into a question that's causing a real stir. Could there be a link between depression and neurodiversity?
It's a question that's really pushing the boundaries of how we think about mental health, A&D. The amazing diversity of human brains, really fascinating stuff.
Right. And I think for a lot of us, we hear neurodiversity and we think like autism, ADHD, those sorts of things. But it's so much bigger than that, isn't it?
Absolutely. The neurodiversity movement is really challenging that old school idea of what's considered normal when it comes to brains. It's saying, hey, there's a whole spectrum of ways our brains process information, the way we learn, how we experience the world.
Okay, so that's like the setup, right? But then we bring in depression. And I gotta admit, when I first heard about this connection, I was like, wait, what? What does depression, something that feels so personal, so internal, have to do with the way our brains are wired?
It's a really interesting question. And honestly, it's one that researchers are only just starting to really dig into. But think of it this way. Depression isn't just in your head, just feeling down. It has real measurable impacts on how your brain functions. Energy levels, motivation, even your ability to feel joy, all that gets messed with.
It's so hard to explain to someone who hasn't gone through it, It's not just sadness, it's this weight, this heaviness that affects everything.
Exactly. And when we start looking at it through the lens of neurodiversity, this idea that brains can be wired differently, well, it makes you wonder, right? Could some of those experiences that come with depression, could they be connected to actual differences in how the brain is structured, how it works at a fundamental level?
So are we saying that depression itself could actually be neurodivergent? Like, it's not just about chemical imbalances, but about the way our brains are, for lack of a better word, built?
That is the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. Some experts are starting to say, yes, maybe depression could fit under that umbrella of neurodiversity. Their argument is that the profound way depression changes how people experience the world, emotions, social situations, the whole bit, well, that's just a fundamental difference in the brain's wiring itself.
So then, like, if depression IS linked to how our brains are wired, does that mean we need to rethink how we treat it, how we support people going through it? That's got to be a game changer, right?
You're hitting on a really crucial point, and it gets to the core of why this whole discussion matters so much. See, if we approach depression through this lens of neurodiversity, it challenges us to shift our whole perspective. Instead of just trying to fix what we see as broken, we start to understand, appreciate even, the unique ways some brains function.
Okay, so less about eliminating symptoms, more about looking at the whole person, their strengths, challenges, the whole package.
Exactly. And this is where that source you shared about mental health in a neurodiverse world really comes into play. It highlights how vital it is that mental health care is tailored to the individual, not just one size fits all,
Right, makes total sense. It's like you wouldn't treat someone with, say, dyslexia the same way you'd treat someone with ADHD, even though they're both neurodivergent. Got to adapt.
Precisely. And it's the same principle here. Understanding the unique ways someone with depression experiences the world, well, that's key to giving them the right kind of support.
Okay, so what does that look like in reality? Are we talking completely different types of therapy, new approaches to medication?
It's not necessarily about throwing out everything we've got. It's more like we need to expand our toolkit. Be more open to approaches that align with this neurodiversity perspective. Like think about therapies that focus on building self-acceptance or understanding sensory sensitivities. Those can be super valuable. Or even just helping someone develop coping mechanisms for tricky social situations.
Got it. So instead of trying to make the depression disappear completely, it's more about helping someone thrive with those differences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that might mean advocating for accommodations in their workplace or in school, just like we do for other forms of neurodiversity. It's about building a world that's more inclusive, where all brains are welcomed and valued.
That actually reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, this idea that depression might actually be neurodevelopmental. So if that's true, we'd need to start thinking about support way earlier on, maybe even during childhood.
Absolutely. If we recognize that certain ways brains are wired might make someone more susceptible to depression, well, that opens up a whole world of possibilities. Early intervention, preventative care, it all becomes possible. We could be teaching kids about neurodiversity from a young age, helping them understand and appreciate their unique ways of experiencing the world long before they face any serious challenges.
So it's less about waiting for someone to hit a crisis point and more about giving them the tools to navigate life's ups and downs in a way that works for them right from the start.
Exactly. And Honestly, that kind of early support could have a huge impact on someone's life, you know? It can make all the difference.
It feels like this whole conversation, it's not just about tweaks, it's like a fundamental shift, moving away from fixing people to actually embracing the full spectrum of how we experience the world.
And that's what's so exciting about this whole area of research.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have all the answers, just asking, could depression be neurodivergent? Well, it forces us to look at everything differently. Mental health, diversity, what it means to be human, the whole shebang.
It really is like opening a door to a whole new world of possibilities, not just for treatment and support, but even just for how we see ourselves, how you understand each other.
Absolutely. It actually makes me think of something you mentioned before, that article about the CareClinic app.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that. It's that app for tracking mental health. Right.
Yeah. But it's more than just tracking, from what the article said. Sounds like they're really leaning into this whole concept of neurodiversity. They have those tools where you can assess yourself, resources to help you understand different neurodivergent experiences, and even a way to connect with therapists who specialize in working with neurodivergent people.
So someone listening to this is like, whoa, this is me. I need to know more. That app could be a good place to start.
It could be, yeah. Of course, nothing can replace talking to a mental health professional, someone who knows their stuff. But for just dipping your toes in, exploring these ideas, maybe learning a bit more about yourself, it could be really helpful.
I love that we're ending on this positive note.
Yeah.
Giving people the tools, the info they need to advocate for themselves, to find the support that actually works for them.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to that big question we started with, right? Is depression neurodivergent? Even if the answer is complicated, just by asking it, we're already changing the conversation around mental health, and that's huge.
And who knows, maybe some of our listeners, they'll be the ones who find those answers. If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, don't let it end here. Keep asking questions. Keep those amazing brains of yours going, because that's how we make progress.
It's true. The more we understand about how diverse the human experience really is, the more we realize there's no one right way to be. We're all different, and that's okay.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll let you get back to your day. But just remember, you are not alone on this journey. Whatever you're going through, we're all in this together.